what has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado. It wasn't just a big night of fights, it was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Good left hand from Knuckle. Right hand right back from Mike Perry. Now 3-0 in BKFC.
Could I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah, folks. What a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Perry on the turn, coming forward. Right hand from Mike Perry, double jab. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knuckle Mania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this thing all the way to the top now.
Welcome, everybody, into an all-new episode of Bare Knuckle Fighting Main Event here on SportsGrid. I am Brian Ciano. Thank you so much for joining us as we take our weekly look at everything going on in the world of the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships, and we got back into action. A nice stacked card, new venue, new scenery, new everything for the BKFC, for BKFC 63, as they did it at Sturgis, doing a fight at Bike Rally Week there, outside, in front of almost 16,000 bikers. It was an awesome card. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Can't wait to break that down. Before that, though, let's give you what we have coming up on the show the rest of the way. Next segment, we're going to do a double with our man Chris Lights Out Lytle. Talk to him about Sturgis. Talk to him about going over to Japan for that Rising card where the BKFC had some fighters on there. And maybe even look a little bit about what we have coming up in the next couple of weeks, because the cards are going to be back to back to back. Then a little bit of time off, but not much, before we get into some more action. The end of the month into September and October, just lots of great fights lining up here for the BKFC. We'll talk to Chris Lytle about that coming up next segment. Then later on, we'll talk to cruiserweight Brandon Stronghold Conley. Made his BKFC debut at Sturgis. Had a great performance. Very interesting fight, the way his opponent decided to fight it, but he does not get frazzled by it, does his thing, finds his range, and eventually gets the third round finish there in his BKFC debut. And then we'll also check in with our man Shark Attack, Zach Calmus, the heavyweight, going to be calling in after his fourth win in a row in the heavyweight division for the BKFC. Another knockout for him in front of his kind of people. If there was a guy built for that Sturgis crowd, Zach Calmus is it, of course, and he did not disappoint the fans there over in Sturgis. I'm sure he had a great experience, as he always does. Anytime you see him at a BKFC card, this guy is loving life there, hanging out with fans, partying with fighters, just making the most of his fighting career here with the BKFC. We'll talk to him about what's next for him in this heavyweight division after 4 wins in a row. And then, of course, we'll finish it up talking about what's next for BKFC, because, as we said, it does not slow down. They get right back into action. They'll be in Coventry in the UK this upcoming weekend for a UK title fight there at welterweight. So we'll preview that for you before we get out of here. But first, let's wrap up Sturgis, talk about the card that was and the awesome fights we had. Now, you got to start at the top. Lovely ladies leading us down there with, of course, the strawweight title on the line. Britain Hart, Taylor Starling, matching up for that title that Britain Hart currently holds. and it did not disappoint. These are two ladies who put on a fight and put on a great show every time, and they certainly did once again. This one goes the distance. It is full 5 rounds that they go before Britain Hart is declared the winner and keeping her title for the BKFC. It was an awesome fight, but it definitely changed, made some adjustments after the beginning. You saw that first round, both women coming out swinging hard, both women swinging strong, walking through the other's punches, trying to finish the other one off. Then maybe towards the end, it kind of shifted a little bit. Taylor Starling coming out aggressive as she always does. Britain Hart does as well. So they were kind of just like meeting in the middle, swinging, seeing who could hit the other one harder. Seemed like Britain Hart got the better of some of those exchanges, did some good head movement there, as you see, to avoid some of Taylor Starling's shots. And then at the end of that round, kind of catches her with a couple big punches, maybe one after the bell. And then when they break, you kind of see Taylor Starling walking back to her corner, and her face is different. Her face kind of seems like a little bit of letdown. Like, really? Like, I hit her with my best, and that's what happened? Seemed like maybe the fight changed after that. Taylor Starling moving back a little bit more after that, letting Britain Hart control the center of the ring there, coming towards her, looking for the counter shots. Didn't always work in her favor there. She did land some good shots, but it seemed like every time she landed, Britain Hart landed something even harder. You had Taylor Starling towards the end of the fight kind of bleeding from the mouth. Britain Hart bleeding from the side of the eye, of her left eye there by the middle of the third round. So, you thought maybe that could have swung things in her favor when you see blood, but because it's her coming forward the whole time, her seeming like the aggressor and her answering every salvo from Taylor Starling, that seemed to garner favor in the rounds of the judges. The way I was scoring it at home, I saw her taking first, second, third. Maybe Taylor Starling might have been able to steal the third. She outlanded her a little bit if you look at the numbers later on. But, to me, the harder punches, the more control of the ring was in the favor of the champion. So I gave her that third there still. Now the fourth round, Starling gets a little more aggressive on the counter, maybe lands some better shots, possibly, gets it at the end of the round there with a couple good salvos there after you get that 10-second clapper. So maybe that was in the favor of Starling. And then the fifth round, again, I think goes to the champion. I think that she landed the bigger shots, especially at the end of the round, as she did that third round that could have stolen it there. And I think that she, in my scorecard, gets it 49-46 for the champion. That's not the way they scored it. They had it there, the judges, 48-47 twice, 49-46 once in favor of the champ. So maybe they gave that third round to Starling or the fifth round. Either way, Hart comes out with the victory, stays the champion, chugs some of that forged Irish stout that Conor McGregor brought with him. As he makes his big ring entrance, in front of the crowd, takes some pictures, shouts out how she fights anybody, anywhere, kind of called out Paige Van Zandt a little bit, saying she fought, fake UFC faces and Dancing with the Star champs, then taking a shot at Beck Rodriguez, saying fought Aussie chicks. So she says, I don't care who it is, where it is, I fight them all, setting records with her 12th appearance of the BKFC, tying Faria with the most title defenses for the ladies now, with another one under her belt, as we've had to wait to see Faria with her fight falling apart. And that was supposed to be in Connecticut. Now we'll see her defend her title against Masan Wong. So we'll see if she can break that record and hold it once again. But another great performance by Britain Hart to hold on to her title there as she dispatches Taylor Starling. There was bad blood before, but both of them showing respect for each other after that fight. Then heavyweight, two guys who showed respect to each other before the fight. You got Josh Burns versus Sam the Hillbilly Hammer Shoemaker. It wasn't the fight we expected. We talked about how that first fight, Shoemaker maybe not there mentally, not in the fight as he should have been because of things going on in his personal life, his wife having cancer and going through treatments, having to pick up some of the weight at home and dealing with all that. Was in a better place here after a couple of years fighting against Burns once again. But 30 seconds in, Burns seems to get tied up. Something wrong with that knee. You can see that. They check it out with the doctor. Good enough to continue, but not good enough to ever really put more on Sam Shoemaker, as it just seems like that whole fight, if you made the black part of that center ring mud and the rest of it was, just regular gravel or grass or something like that, that I felt like the whole time Burns was walking through mud trying to pick those legs up and get his hands on Shoemaker, and Shoemaker was just able to get away for 4 rounds, just pick him apart from the outside with jabs, not the slugfest that we expected or hoped for. Fifth round, maybe Shoemaker getting a little kick in the butt from Conor McGregor when he was talking to him ringside as they check out Burns again. But then he drops Burns with a big shot after that fifth round, into that fifth round after talking to McGregor. Drops him again later in the round to clearly walk away with that. But he gets The unanimous decision, 49-45 on all three judges' scorecards. Good win for him in the rematch. Might have to get a third one and hopefully get both these guys at their peak, both mentally and physically. We'll see if that happens, but Shoemaker making a return to the BKFC and getting a nice win. You also had Josh Dyer making quick work of his opponent, William Albrecht, just kind of circling, letting his opponent come to him, drops him with the right hand first time. Then keeps circling. Again, Albrecht coming forward, getting dropped as Dyer's backpedaling with that right hand. That just shows the power. He didn't step into it, didn't lean into it. You can see here, circling backwards, catching him, lights out, hits his head off the ring, just completely still out, and D-Day Dyer gets the victory and, asserts himself as one of the toughest in that division. Do we get him a title shot against a foe he knows very well in Captain Deadpool, Jared Warren, who holds that title? We will see. It's been a while since we've seen Dyer. Maybe he needs to fight a top 5 guy before getting that title shot. That's all up to Nate Shook and Dave Feldman, but still a great performance by him in a quick performance there. Then, 2 heavyweight performances we got to highlight. Josh Stay Down Watson against Ruben Roundstone. It's been a while since we saw Watson. Hopefully it's not a while until we see him again as he makes quick work of Ruben Roundstone in the first round. Roundstone, very weird approach, just basically backing up, putting his hands up as you see there, and putting himself against the ropes. Not what you want to do against a power puncher like Stay Down Watson, and he was made to pay for it, getting dropped over and over again 4 times in that fight. And then Zach Calamus, who we'll talk to later on, getting his 4th win in a row, dropping Paul Show, another interesting way of his opponent fighting, but he gets 2 good knockdowns of him. After the first one, obviously saw blood in the water, came attacking, and gets to the finish. A good job by him. When we come back, we'll talk about all these fights with our man Chris Lights Out Lytle here on SportsGrid.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching him, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're a legit 5 deep at receiver. 7 bona fide pass targets. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
If the U.S. gets to a bad start and they're down or close, I may double down on the second quarter because I know that that's when Steve Kerr is going to want to either A, if it's close, open it up. If they're losing, you got to get the lead because you don't want teams like it was in South Sudan that believe that they can win.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Bare Knuckle Fighting main event here on SportsGrid. And if there's big fights, big cards, historic events that the BKFC has, there's only one man to talk to before and after that. And that is our man Chris Lights Out Lytle, of course, the BKFC color commentator, always there ringside at every fight. And he joins us now as we get to break down Sturgis. But before we even get to Sturgis, you've been racking up those miles as always, Chris, and you're going to continue to do that, I'm sure, given the built-in huge schedule that the BKFC has over the next 6 weeks or so. But come back before you went to Sturgis from Japan. Now, of course, it wasn't a BKFC card, but there were BKFC fighters over there. John Dodson, Ty Emery, Charissa Sigala. Tell us what it was like going over for that Risen card over to Asia and representing the BKFC there.
Man, it was absolutely unbelievable. Ryzen is a great organization. They treat you first class. Glad to be partnered up with those guys. It was unreal. I mean, 45,000, 48,000 people, whatever it was, in the stands. I haven't been anything like it at a fight. So to be around something like that and have our fighters compete, it was amazing. I mean, Ty Emery had a very quick knockout over Sigala, who's traditionally just tough as nails, always in the fight the entire time, but broke her nose immediately. That fight was over. And then John Dodson went against a Japanese guy. First fight, Soya, man, he came to bang. He's a fighter. He's a big guy. I can't wait to have him come over to the States and fight. But, I mean, Dodson did what he does. Landed little punches, combinations, fast, blitzed and landed, got 3 knockdowns, did a great job. I mean, it was a good, tough test for Dodson, but he passed. And, Soya's going to be a guy to contend with.
It was an awesome card. Great to watch those fights. And, of course, Ty Emery then puts on a show multiple ways always. First, she does it with her fists. Then she does it with her celebrations. She has always for the BKFC, doing it once again after beating Sigala. And then, of course, talk of maybe putting her against the lead of this card we just had in Sturgis this past weekend. You talk about the 40,000 over there for Horizon. We saw almost 16,000 at Sturgis. Of course, the biker rally for BKFC 63, one of the biggest events fan-wise for the BKFC. What was it like with those fans there, with the atmosphere of it being Bike Week? Separate from the card and the awesome fights we had, tell us what it was like being out there in Sturgis for Bike Week and BKFC 63.
Man, I've never been to Sturgis. I've never been to Bike Week. It was a unique experience, but, man, I'm just getting spoiled now. I'm getting into these times where I'm just getting, 16 to 40,000 people. I'm going to come to a fight. We're going to have 8,000. I'm like, yeah, I guess it's all right. But, those are huge cards. That's a lot of people. And look at these fists to face. Oh, these are just great fights we had the entire time. The environment was fantastic. Everybody there, you could tell a lot of the people had never been to a bare knuckle fight, and they were, what is this? What is going on? And they absolutely loved it. I knew that would be our target audience. I knew those type of people would be like, this is exactly what we want to see. We came and we gave them a great event, and, we have a lot more BKFC fans now than we had going into that.
It was awesome, and of course the fights always help, and you give them the great action. They can get into it even more, as they did with that card. Let's start at the top. The women's strawweight title on the line, and Britton Hart holds on to it, beating Killer Bee Taylor Starling. It really seemed to me that this fight changed at the end of that first round. Now, of course, Taylor kept fighting. She's tough. She, even at the end there, the last couple rounds came alive a little bit more, but you saw the hard shots that Hart landed in that first round. Taylor would come forward, put some good shots on her, and then Hart would come right back and hit her even harder. And I think towards the end, when they broke after that first round, the look on Taylor's face almost to me seemed like, really, what the hell do I have to do? And the rest of that fight was a lot more of backing up for her than I thought it was in that first round when she was coming forward, being aggressive when she's at her best.
Well, I think you got it right. At the very end of that first round, there's about 3 punches. This might be at that little combination that Bret Hart landed. Anybody who questions Taylor Starling's chin now, that has to be gone, because she took some massive shots. Bret threw some bombs, and Taylor walked through them. She did change her behavior a little bit. She started backing up, but she just went to a different strategy. She backed up and she waited for the right time in these two combinations. She came in with a hard right hand. And that would back Britt up. But even when she would hit Britt with something, Britt would come right back. Those are just two tough girls who you're not gonna stop either one of them right now. I don't think so. They were both won that title very bad, and it showed. It was a fantastic fight. A lot of hard punches were landed that would have knocked a lot of girls down. They just kept coming.
It absolutely was. That was a great going to the decision. You always want to see the finishes in a lot of fights, but when you see action like that for 5 rounds, of course the fans still get into it. They still love it. One that was kind of disappointing in that way as it went to decision was the co-main event, Shoemaker Burns. Not because these guys aren't tough, not because they're not warriors, but 30 seconds in, Burns obviously had something wrong with that knee after that tie up there. For whatever reason, whatever happened, whether it was like a stumble, a trip, whatever happened, that knee was not right, and it seemed like the rest of the fight, he was fighting in mud, trying to get his hands on Shoemaker, who just picked him apart from the outside. Lands some big shots in the 5th, finally showed that power that he was looking for throughout the fight, but for the first 4 rounds, it's more of, you can't hit me, so I'm just going to tag you a little bit here or there, score my points, and get my win.
Yeah, I brought that up throughout the fight the entire time. How Josh Burns, you could tell after that very beginning, he couldn't push off that right leg. So he was kind of stationary. He was just a sitting target. And if you can't push off that right foot and you're a right-handed fighter, you can't throw that bomb. I don't see how you win. So he was kind of a sitting target. I was proud of him for staying in there. A lot of guys that have just quit, like, I can't do it. But there's really nothing he can do besides try and counterpunch. If that's not your game plan, it's going to be a hard night.
And it definitely was from him. And, it's been a long time since we saw Shoemaker, so good to see him back in there. I wish we had gotten the full rematch that we expected of these guys because, of course, the first one, Shoemaker had a lot of things going on in his personal life with his wife and cancer. Wasn't all there mentally, probably, that he has said. Burns, obviously not there all physically in the second one, so might have to see a third. Hopefully it's not, years in the making. But, of course, Burns is probably going to be on the shelf for a little bit with that knee. We have so many fights. Let's quickly, because this was pretty quick, let's talk about it in a minute because it was under a minute. Josh Dyer showing once again why he's one of the best in that division. That right hand, when it lands, puts people to sleep.
Man, the way he did that, too, what we talked about in his fighter interview, was he's been working on plyometric work and power and coming out with more power in that right hand. I was like, wow, you're already one of the heaviest hitting guys. And he backs away and lands a right hand and knocks his opponent out. You don't see that. The last guy I've ever been able to back up and hit somebody and knock him out was Chuck Liddell. Josh Dyer has that kind of ability, so he's a problem. I mean, he's beat Jared Warren. He's beat the champ. He's been off for a while, but this guy, he could beat anybody in that division any given night.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing D-Day back in there soon, hopefully, and maybe getting him against one of those top 5 guys so we can see if we get the third match between him and Captain Deadpool. All that remains to be seen. But when we come back, we'll wrap up this event with Chris Lights Out Lytle and look ahead to what's coming up down the line here on SportsGrid.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching him, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The bottom of this field is a bunch of guys, quite frankly, that aren't on the tour, aren't on the DP tour, aren't on the Corn Ferry tour.
The top 25 or so in this field, I mean, you've got Rory, you've got Lowry, you've got Scheffler, all 4 Americans, Minwoo Lee and Jason Day, and you go to Mito Pereira and Joaquin Neiman out of Chile. So, it really is pretty deep.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
We bring back Chris Lights Out Lytle here on Bare Knuckle Fighting main event on SportsGrid because there's just so much to still talk about. We have a couple more fights on this card, Chris and Sturgis, and then we got to move on because this is just loaded back-to-back, weeks of action, back-to-back-to-back. It continues into September, October, plenty of great fights. Obviously, we'll not get them all in, but, we'll have to have you back on and talk about some more of those down the line. Before we get done with Sturgis, let's talk about some of the heavyweights showing out on that card. Of course, you had your boy Stay Down, Josh Watson, getting a quick victory in a very weird fight, the way that Ruben Roundstone decided to fight that. Just, here, I'm going to put my hands up, back up, and go ahead and swing. It's very interesting to see how he decided to go against a power puncher like Watson. And then our man Zach, the Shark Attack columnist, who we're going to talk to later on, getting another victory, 4 in a row for him in the heavyweight division, maybe putting himself in line to finally fight one of the top 5 guys and try to get towards that belt.
Yeah, Zach's been really impressive with his ability to really make this sport his own. He fights at his own pace, he fights his own style, but he's difficult to deal with, and he weaponizes pace, he wears you down when he has to. He didn't have to in this fight, though, because he got a quick knockout. Because he's really learned bare knuckle. He's been really good about it. And Watson, man, that guy, he can take anybody out any given night. I mean, the dude's a power hitter, heavy-handed guy. And like you said, Roundstone just said, I'm gonna have my strategy. I'm gonna back up, and I'm gonna let you throw your punches. I'm gonna counter. You can't do that against Watson. That's a bad mistake. I don't think people realize how heavy-handed this guy is until you get hit a couple times. Like, oh Jesus, this is not what I thought. Too late at that point.
Yeah, you're basically making yourself a punching dummy at that point. It was very interesting to see, like, that's how you want to go with the fight. But now, as we said, this is back-to-back cards here. Just events stacking up on top of each other over the next 6-8 weeks or so. Go over the pond. Coventry, the UK, another fight for the BKFC over in the UK. This one, BKFC 64, is going to see a welterweight title bout. Connor Tierney, a guy who had a lot of hype coming in after his first couple fights with the BKFC. People thought that he could challenge for that welterweight title in the U.S. Has stumbled a little bit, against Jake Lindsay, who we'll talk about in a minute. Had that loss over there, but now is coming back fighting for that UK title. And we talked to him last week. It looks like a different guy, both mentally and physically. I'm sure you've seen the pictures of him just getting ripped over the last 4 or 6 weeks getting ready for this in camp. The guy looks like he is taking this way more seriously than he did before.
Yeah, I think he knows how good he is. I think he understands the ability he has, and I think he feels like he hasn't reached that potential. I mean, anytime you have a guy who's that hard to hit, he's that slick, and he's that skilled at controlling the ring, he's going to be a difficult fight for anybody. He's mixed that in with his different training methods. I think this guy really is focused and dialed in, so this is going to be a very good test for him. Graham is undefeated, so I really want to see. Working out's one thing, but putting that into the ring, a totally different thing. So if Connor Tierney can do what I think he has the ability to do, he definitely could challenge for the title over here.
We're looking forward to seeing that, seeing what he can do this weekend. Tough opponent in Graham there, so obviously we're not just going to give him the win and bring him back over, but of course, always every fight in the BKFC very tough. Now coming up the week after that, August 16th, back to Kansas City. Back to seeing Elvin Brito. We saw a new El Bandito in his last fight, a quick finish. This is a guy who people probably had written off for dead a little bit after a couple losses. Coming out and saying, I'm just going for heads. I want to finish people. I don't care what happens. I'm going for knockouts, no more decisions. Fighting Jake Lindsay, a guy who beat the aforementioned Connor Tierney over in the UK, then lost his chance at the title. Both these guys with a win can get back into that title picture. What are you looking for in that fight? How excited are you to see those guys match up?
Perfect matchup. This is exactly what we need at this time for these two guys at the crossroads. Elvin, yeah, I really love what we have this a lot where people will tell us one thing in the interviews. I'm not doing this. I'm going for the knockout from now on. And the fight, things change. Elvin actually put his money where his mouth is. He said he was going to do it, and he did. So this will be very interesting. That was one time. Can he do it again? Did he just catch his opponent once and said, okay, I'm going to jump on him? Or is that his new mindset? Is that his new mentality? Because I know that happened to me. I said, I'm not ever trying to win this decision again. And after that, my career took off in the right direction. Is that what Elvin really did? I think so, but this is going to be the fight to prove it. He proved it once, but this second time's really it. And Jake Lindsay, like you said, he has a win over Connor Tierney. Knockout. So this is going to be a huge fight. And the winner, I think they put themselves right in that title hunt.
And that's going to look forward to that one. We have so many more as well. The title is on the line. We have the Edmonton card up there for the Prospect Series. Then September, you get back Christine Faria back in action and Masang Wong. You get 2 title fights September 13th in Hollywood, Florida at BKFC 66. You get October 12th over in Spain. It just keeps going on and on. Can't wait to see so many of these great fights and these great cards coming up. Chris Lytle will be on all those calls. He'll make sure we know what's going on inside the ring all the time. Chris, thanks so much for your time. Look forward to talking to you in the weeks ahead about some of these other fights.
Sounds good.
Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado. It wasn't just a big night of fights, it was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Good left hand from Rockhold. Right hand right back from Mike Perry. Now 3-0 in BKFC.
Could I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah, folks. What a night it is going to be. Historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Perry on the turn, coming forward, left hand right hand from Mike Perry, double jab. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of Angel.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knuckle Mania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this thing all the way to the top now.
Welcome back into Bare Knuckle Fighting main event here on SportsGrid. We continue to look at this awesome card we had out in Sturgis, BKFC 63. And one of those guys who made a great performance for himself in his BKFC debut was Brandon Stronghold Conley, who joins us now. Brandon, thanks so much. The cruiserweight coming on with us. Brandon, first of all, before we get into the fight itself, which was weird in a lot of senses, the way your opponent decided to fight it, what was it like for you going to Sturgis, being there at Biker Week, being there in front of that crowd? The rabid bikers probably drinking all day out there, having a good time for a couple days. Now, especially you, someone who's pretty early in your fighting career as far as experiences go in the pro career. What was it like? Being out there outdoors with all these bikers at Bike Rally for Sturgis.
Yeah, man, it was an incredible event. Actually, everybody was really nice, polite, respectful. The bikers showed a lot of respect for us fighters. But yeah, that was the first time I've ever been to any kind of like biker rally, rodeo, you name it. But yeah, my first experience with it was pretty incredible, man.
Now your first experience fighting outdoors, I saw actually you just fought in June, not too long ago. Was the fairgrounds in West Virginia there? You had a boxing match, a glove boxing. Yeah. So, how did that help you prepare for being out there with the sun still up and, the heat and all this stuff that you had to deal with being out there at Sturgis?
It definitely helped. Like, the main reason I took that fight was just to stay active because I was waiting on my call for the BKFC. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know exactly when. So I took that fight just to stay active. And, yeah, as far as the heat goes, man, me and my boys, we train in the heat every day. So it wasn't nothing new to me, man. None of that stuff affects me.
And obviously, then you put on a great fight, but before we get, you say staying active, but, when you look at your record, there's a big gap in time from, your first fights to now when you're, getting back into things in your first debut at the BKFC. Tell people, who may not have followed your career before, don't know that much about you, what was going on, what was the big gap, and how'd you get back into pro fighting, and, what made you join the BKFC now?
So pretty much, man, I've been in combat sports since I've been 6 years old. I started martial arts when I was 6. I did that from 6 years old to 12 years old. Then, we started, I didn't start, but I joined the Police Athletic League boxing program when I was 12 years old, right after martial arts. And I had I went 15-2 in amateur boxing. A lot of people don't even know that. I won the Golden Gloves, got second at the state fair. And then some personal things happened with my family and parents, so I kind of fell out of it for a little bit. And then my brother got me into mixed martial arts. I went 5-1 in that, so I did that up until I was in my early 20s. Went pro in that, got my jaw broke, and found out my wife was pregnant pretty much all in the same week or so. So I took a break from it. I started powerlifting because I had to do something to keep my competitive, drive going. Ended up breaking all kinds of world records in powerlifting and bench pressing and so on and so forth. And then me and my best friend, which is now my corpsman / trainer, we started following BKFC, and something that was always on my bucket list to do. We saw they were having tryouts in Sterling, Virginia. He talked me into doing that, and pretty much, man, the rest is history. I started doing professional boxing, had a few street beast fights, and yeah, man, now we're here. So that gap was a gap from fighting, but it wasn't a gap from being competing and being active and staying in shape and so on and so forth.
Well, it's great to hear that, you were already doing things always because, unfortunately, as like you said, you have things happen in your personal life. That's usually the story between a lot of fighters,
Right.
that unfortunately have that gap. But, you were always busy, active, doing different things, and glad to see you now with the BKFC. Great performance by you there. I know you posted about, cutting down to cruiserweight. So you talked about powerlifting, talked about, doing those kind of things. Obviously going to bulk up, get huge. What was the cut like for you to get into this weight division now that you're fighting at? Was it a big cut? Were you racking up 260, 300? What were you packing as you were doing your powerlifting days and now have to cut back into fighting shape here?
Yeah, man. Whenever I started, I was 270 pounds, and I'm not that tall. I'm only 5'9". So I mean, yeah, I went from 270 down to 205 for this fight, and I'm really thinking about dropping down to 185, man. There's some interesting fights down there, but I believe I could snatch the title at 205 and 185. So yeah, whatever makes sense and wherever the BKFC wants me to go, 85, 205. But it's really weighing on me to go to 185 for my next fight.
Well, we're looking forward to see. I mean, you're in such good shape for this fight. I can't even imagine you cutting down even more what that might look like. It'll be even scarier for your opponents. But now let's talk about the opponent you just faced and dispatched in your first fight in the BKFC. Tice here, had a very weird fighting style there. We talked earlier with Chris Lights Out Lytle about how you had other guys that just backing up, just putting their hands up and just going against the ropes. Your opponent just put his head down, put his hands up, and just kind of swung back and forth like he's some kind of pendulum. What did that do to you early on in the fight? How hard was that to get used to? And did you ever really fear him at that point? I mean, when your head down like that, he can't see where you're throwing. It's basically just a moving punching bag. What was it like when you first saw him try to fight you in that way, in that style?
Yeah, I mean, me and my coaches, we kind of knew he was going to do that because we saw a couple of his fight videos, and we knew he had a really weird, awkward style. But honestly, man, the thing that made it so frustrating for me was obviously I'm big on power and precision. I preach that all the time, and for me to be able to land my shots, it was tough because the only place I was really open to hit him was on top of his head or the side of his head. So I was really nervous about breaking my hand. So I had to be really cautious about when I was going to throw my power shots and throw a lot of feints to get him to try to open up. But once I got that down, his weird style down, I was able to capitalize on his awkward head movement and really catch him with big shots. But yeah, it was frustrating. I ain't gonna lie. He's very awkward.
Well, you eventually obviously found your range, timed him out because the second round you just started catching him with big shots left and right. The first one, he almost seemed like he did a split when he went down. You knocked him down a couple more times, in that round. What were you thinking as you're going back into the corner of the second round? Are you surprised that it was still continuing? Are you just sitting there saying, all right, how much longer before I finish, guy? What were you thinking as you prepared between the second and third rounds there?
Yeah, I knew it was just a matter of time before I landed that perfect one that would keep him down. I was really hoping he wouldn't get back up after the second one, man, because my hands were hurting. But yeah, he's incredibly tough, man. Hell of a chin, iron will. That dude had so much heart and I got a lot of respect for Tice. But yeah, I going in the second round, I knew it was just a matter of time until I just landed that one that he wouldn't be able to recover from.
Well, you finally did that in the third round. You finish him. You get the victory. How does it feel to get your first BKFC win? You talked about the hands hurt in the second round. How are they now? Is it that they fully recovered, or any injuries that we have to worry about going forward? Or are we going to see you back in there soon?
Definitely not fully recovered. I mean, I don't know if you can really tell by the camera, but it's a little swollen, purple. But I mean, nothing broke. I'll be able to get back to training in probably a week or two, and yeah, I'm gonna get back in there as soon as possible. Like I said, I might be going to 185, so it might take me a good, 6, 7, 8 weeks to get a good training camp in for that. But they want me to stay at 205, man. I'm down for that too. So yeah, I'm ready to get back in there and make money and chase some titles.
Is there anybody at 205 or 185 that you talked about watching, talked about being into? Is there anybody that you look at and you say, I love to fight that guy, whether it be just a good matchup for you or a good springboard into getting into the rankings and title talk? What have you seen of these two divisions as you watch the BKFC?
185, not so much because I haven't really been following that division like I have been the 205 division. But there's a few fighters on the Kansas City card coming up that I'm looking at. I'd like to fight the winner of Devin Schwann and Jesse Pringle. Me and Devin were supposed to fight before, but venue issues made it fall through, so we ended up, getting separated and fighting on different cards. So if he can pull that win off, I'd like to fight Devin sometime later this year. Or if Jesse beats Devin, I'd like to fight Jesse. But I do believe I'll knock out either one of those guys. So,
well, you showed us that you can definitely put your fist to face and knock guys out this past weekend over in Sturgis. Thanks so much for joining us here, Brandon Conley. We appreciate your time. We're looking forward to seeing you back in the BKFC. Heal up quick, and we really look forward to seeing you fight.
All righty, guys. Hey, thanks for having me, man. We'll knock out the show.
If the U.S. gets to a bad start and they're down or close, I may double down on the second quarter because I know that that's when Steve Kerr is going to want to either A, if it's close, open it up. If they're losing, you got to get the lead because you don't want teams like it was in South Sudan that believe that they can win.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
JJ McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching him, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Bare Knuckle Fighting main event here on SportsGrid as we continue to look at this awesome card we just had out in Sturgis. BKFC 63, and man who always shows up and performs no matter where it is, but was definitely tailor-made for an event like this is our man Shark Attack. Zach Calamus joined us now, the heavyweight. Another win in the BKFC heavyweight division, climbing himself further and further into the talks of possibly getting some title contention. Talk about that in just a minute, but first, Zach, before we get to that or even the fight, I want to know, what was it like for you out there at Sturgis? When did you get there? Where did you get there a couple days early to take in everything, or was it just getting there right at time to go business? What was the trip like for you to Sturgis?
Trip was wonderful. We flew out there, and the weather was hot. I could feel the heat, the climate change on the plane. So that was definitely interesting. You know what I mean? Very hot in Sturgis.
I know you're a man who likes to take everything in, whether it's, going to other cards that you're not part of or being there and hanging out with the fans and other fighters as you're getting ready to do battle. So, what were you doing out there, in Sturgis? Were you hanging out with some of the bikers before or after? Or, what was going on? Were you enjoying hanging out with the crowd afterwards, with your fight being early on the card? What was the scene like there in Sturgis with all those, rowdy bikers there for Bike Week? Was it the craziest fight card you've ever been at? Let me know what the scene was like there for you.
It was absolutely incredible, and we had just a magnitude of power, American raw power with Conor McGregor there, and just such a spectacle of sports and entertainment all combined in under one roof, even outside. But it was my first professional fight outside, and what a better place to debut. In Sturgis, with the crowd attendance being a little bit over 15,000, they announced on the Bare Knuckles show this morning. Shout out Brian Sosha and President and owner Mr. David Feldman, our boss. It's just incredible, making waves, making tidal waves, and it's just incredible.
And not just outside. When you guys were doing battle there on that card, it was bright. It was sunny. It wasn't like, you're under the lights where maybe you can trick yourself a little bit into being like it was back at the arena. But, it was bright. It was middle of, it was still sunny out there, probably pretty damn hot still. What was that like for you fighting during the day outside? Did it affect you anything with the glare? Was there certain angles you had to go at in order to make sure that didn't get to you? Or, the heat and all that kind of stuff that you were dealing with out there? What was that? What kind of effect? I know it didn't go too long, but still it had to affect you in one way or another.
To be completely honest with you, my style of training is extremely rugged. I get away from the gym, and I get away from the man-made society, which our bodies end up craving so much. I go into the environment, and I do sparring in the woods with different sparring partners, and not only in the woods. I train mostly in the ring, but I'm telling you that the reason for the way I fight is the way I train. You're gonna fight the way you train ultimately. So I'm hitting myself with sticks and running up mountains, and sometimes I fall down the mountain, but I always get back up. And I'm not a very good rock climber, but I do that, and I throw boulders. Maybe I'll just throw this big boulder 100 times over the fence, and then I have to jump the fence and get it and throw it again. I make these little workouts up. Drop down, I do 50 push-ups, throw the boulder. Drop down, 50 push-ups, throw the boulder. And pick up a log like Rocky and walk through the woods in the winter. That's exhausting. And there's nothing in the gym that could compare to the natural environment, the earth. So being in Sturgis, a very natural, amazing, beautiful place. It just I felt the spirit of the warrior.
Well, you certainly showed that. Another win for you, another great performance, another finish here in the first round. You have come through and done great things to the BKFC lately. Your opponent came out there early on with him. You were using you had you show the boxing background with the hands held high, the good, defense there, the head movement that you were using to avoid his shots. Then you kind of catch him with the left to drop him that first time. He gets back up. You could see that you saw blood right there. You knew what was, blood in the water, obviously, as the shark. Come forward, attack him, get the finish with the big left hook with just before the end of the round. Walk me through that round for you. What did it feel like as you were going early on? Then once you knocked him the first time, did you know it was over? Just a matter of when, not if. And what made you turn that dial? Because you were being not cautious, but you're being smart, finding your spots there with the boxing. But once he went down that first time, it seemed like the switch flipped, and you're just like, let's go get them.
Blood in the water. I pride myself on being a shark, and shark got to use shark tactics to get ahead. So I'd be a unintelligent individual if I was to not jump on him when he was already hurt. You know what I mean? I hit him with that gut overhand right, and then I came in and hit him with a signature left hook, very tight, like Mike Tyson. I was born the same day as Mike Tyson, and I really have revered and looked up to Mike Tyson my whole entire life. And I would love to meet him, but that's going to happen naturally if God has it in His will for me to meet Mike. I'll meet Mike. But that was a Mike Tyson left hook. I just brought it in very tight, and it clipped him right on the button. All glory to God, and I'm just grateful that we had that finish.
Another great finish for you. That's 4 wins in a row with the BKFC. They still don't have you in that top 5. It's tough top 5 to crack right now with the heavyweight division. With so many great fighters coming in there, putting on some awesome performances. What are you looking for now? Do you want one of those guys in the top 5? They've always had you as the guy kind of setting the scene early in the card. Do you want a co-main event against one of these top 5 guys? What are you calling for from Dave Feldman and Nate Shook now?
Well, the thing is, so I've always said after my fights that it's not up to me, it's up to them. And they're always, very fair in their approach to matching up fights, and how they talk to us is top notch. So when they're ready to reach out, for the opportunity, then they're going to talk to me about it, and then I'll have to think about it at that time. I will tell you this, something that hasn't been thought about, and it's very interesting. At one point in my camp, I was working so hard on cardio and lifting and stuff that I was only 228 pounds. So I could fight at 200 pounds as well and storm that whole division. I could be at 200 pounds in about 2 or 3 weeks. And I fought one fight at 200 pounds, but I would like to go take that title as soon as possible. I'm the champ.
Well, whatever weight class, wherever it is, we'd love to see the Shark Attack perform. Looking forward to seeing you again, hopefully soon after that quick performance. Thanks so much for coming back.
I can even grade 75, baby. I'm going to be champ.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're a legit 5 deep at receiver. 7 bona fide pass targets. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
The silver and the bronze. I give you Canada, France, Germany, Serbia, and Australia.
Germany, more so than Canada. I think that their talent, it's a little more tiered. What Dennis Schroeder's capable of. Franz Wagner, another player. Daniel Tice steps up. And Mo Wagner as well. They're built to really take advantage of the mistakes that Team USA makes, and they can make the effort plays.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
However many units are on the line, however many people, however many cocktails, it's a perfect scorecard. And someone questioned him on one hole. He's like, well, one thing I never get wrong is the scorecard. And then we're on 13 and he's added up and he's like, this is wrong.
I looked back from number 13 and I'm like, I'm missing $140 somewhere. I don't know where I'm missing it. And I'm looking back and I'm like, no, it doesn't match up on 11. And I got to track it back to number 7.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back as we wrap up another episode of Bare Knuckle Fighting main event here on SportsGrid. Thank you so much to my guests who joined me to talk about that great card, BKFC 63 we had out at Sturgis. Of course, we brought on our man Chris Lights Out Lytle, a color commentator. You hear him at just about every fight for the BKFC, always there ringside, giving us the call of what is going on and giving us his perspective as the former fighter. Great to meet Brandon Conley, Stronghold Conley, the cruiserweight, making his BKFC debut out there in Sturgis. Looking forward to hopefully seeing him back in there again and a more conventional fight. Weird from his opponent, the way he fought that, but good performance by him under such circumstances, outside in front of 16,000 bikers, guy that's just kind of head down, swinging like a pendulum. Weird way to come into the BKFC, but he made his impression there with his first fight, and always good to talk to our man Shark Attack, Zach Calamus, now 4-0 in his last 4 fights for the BKFC. Another finish for him, making himself a guy you got to put in the talk of getting into that top 5. I mean, that is a tough top 5 if you look at it to really break into. Not just lip service there on the guys who are headlining that heavyweight division, but I mean, when you got Mick Terrell, Adams, Josh Watson, Copeland, Perdomo, in that top 5, Oscar and Alexander, maybe a little bit different, but I mean, you don't even have Big Ben in that top 5, the guy who should be fighting for the title next. So that shows you how stacked that division has become for the BKFC, and we'll see if Zach Calamus can put his name up with some of the best. And, of course, let's not even mention guys like Josh Burns, Shoemaker, guys like that, so Watson, plenty of guys there who can be next for Zach Calamus if he wants to fight again soon. But before we get out of here, there was some great things that we saw out there at Sturgis. Speaking of Big Ben, if you look at the socials of the BKFC, obviously he was there ringside. You see him there with Conor McGregor. Not sure if they crossed paths in the time of the UFC, but I'm sure they know each other well from their fighting exploits. And also, making a call out there. He called out Mick Terrell saying, let's go, let's do this. I want to fight. Of course, Mick Terrell responded in his own on, saying he's ready. He's not dodging him. So who knows what is going on behind the scenes there as we try to put these two heavyweights together. It's been a while that we've been waiting for it. I think all of this year we've been calling for that fight, waiting for it. So we will see if and when that happens. Hopefully it does. But Big Ben making his presence known. If there's anybody, as we talked about with guys like Watson and Shoemaker and Calamus and Burns, guys who are made for Sturgis, a guy like Big Ben certainly made for that kind of crowd. Hopefully if we ever do that again, we see him. Maybe that'd be the title fight that we see next year at Sturgis. Put that as the headliner, Terrell versus Big Ben. That would be awesome to see. But, as you saw there in the picture, the new part owner of the BKFC also making his presence felt there at Sturgis. I mean, not just being there ringside, not just watching fights, getting his own entrance into the ring and into his seat there was, of course, Conor McGregor, as we see here, walking out, having his own music, his own ring girls walking him out. New look with the shaved head there. I don't know if that was, shaved face, shaved head. I don't know if that was just to match some of the guys that you probably saw in the crowd there, to go with the biker look there for the rally, or if that is the new look that we're seeing from BKFC, kind of maybe a Pitbull look there. But Conor McGregor making his presence felt there for the BKFC as the new part owner in ringside at Sturgis. But as we said, things don't slow down for the BKFC over the next couple months, but especially the next couple weeks, back-to-back events. Tierney versus Graham is this next one that we have coming up. We talked to Connor Tierney last week about that. Fighting Johnny Graham, a guy who is, fought in the BKFC. I'm sure made more of a name for himself over there, over in the UK and other promotions before. 2-0 in the BKFC. Quick finishes. This guy has some power. This guy is dangerous, but he's fighting a guy in Connor Tierney who we know can be a great fighter in bare knuckle for the BKFC. Came in 2-0 with great performances against Riggs and Elmore. Then had that loss against Lindsay back in his backyard there in the UK. Since then, it's been a while since we've seen him. That was March 4th, 2023. So over a year. Well, what has he been up to? We talked to him about that. You see that on social media. Rededicating himself. That fight changed him. That fight made him realize that he's got to change a bunch about how he trains, about how he lives, about how he eats. And, he's coming in here looking ripped, looking ready to go, looking like he is a force to be reckoned with in that division. He has his sights set on this UK welterweight title, and then even bigger than that, he has his sights set on getting back into the US and fighting for the the world title in the BKFC at welterweight. We'll see if he can get back to that. Austin Trout, of course, hooked up for a fight coming up in the next couple months, so he'll have to wait if that's the next goal. But maybe after this one, he gets another fight against someone else in that top 5. But Connor Tierney is ripped and ready to go, and we will see what he does in his return to the ring for the BKFC, fighting for that welterweight title over in the UK in Coventry, August 10th. Make sure you check that out. It's going to be an afternoon card because of the time change. Make sure you watch that on the BKFC app, and we'll break all that down next week here on SportsGrid. Thanks so much for tuning in.